Hello, my name is Rachel Oshinsky. I am an independent college counselor with Purple Goat College Consulting. This is episode 3 of LGBTQIA plus life in college. I am here today with Jessie Beal, who is the director of the Spectrum Center at University of Michigan. Hello and welcome. First question, could you provide a general overview of what the Spectrum Center does at UMich?
Absolutely. So I'm really glad to be here with you. I will say I use they, them pronouns. And I have been the director of Spectrum Center just since December, so I'm relatively new to this role. Our campus, we are the first gender and sexuality center on any university campus. We've been in existence since the early 70s, so over 50 years now. We have a staff of 6 professional staff, and we provide support services, events, educational opportunities, and advocacy for students primarily, but we also work with faculty and staff at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. We were founded by Jim Toy, who is a pretty famous LGBTQ activist, as well as Cynthia Gare. We are, I would say, one of the best LGBTQ centers in the country. I just want to get into a fight with Jenny, not really. But we've been around for an incredibly long time, and we are doing cool stuff. I don't know what else to say. I'm proud of us,
Great. Yeah, thank you.
How deep do you want me to dive in? Because I could talk for hours about everything that we do.
I'll go on to the next question, and you'll just have a chance to say more as I ask more questions.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, next question. Could you please describe the LGBTQIA plus undergraduate community on campus?
Yeah, they're everywhere. I say that mostly jokingly, but also it's true. We have some really fun new data from the American College Health Association that shows that over 30% of current undergrads are LGBTQIA2S+, which is amazing. So they are everywhere. Our queer and trans students are in a lot of ways a lot like all of our Michigan students, right? Incredibly bright, a lot of fun, critical of everything, super nerdy, which I love because I'm also super nerdy, and really focused on community building and being good partners and friends to one another, which I really love. They're always doing the most. There's just 1,000 LGBTQ orgs on campus too, right? Not really 1,000, but it feels like it. And so there's constantly stuff happening on campus. We do have most of our, student-facing spaces, like on most campuses, were created because of student activism. And so our students have done an incredibly good job of asking for what they need on this campus. And our administration, to their good credit, have, done the work. So we have gender-inclusive housing and all-gender restrooms and policies that create spaces for folks to actually thrive here, which is pretty great. So I like them. They're all right, I guess.
That's wonderful. Following up on gender inclusive housing, could you speak about the gender inclusive housing that exists on campus? And this is kind of a 2-part question. So what gender inclusive housing exists on campus? And then do you know about the process of creating this option?
I don't know a ton about the process of creating this option because it's been around for a very long time. I've worked in a ton of LGBTQ centers at a bunch of different campuses in my career. And this is the first job I've had where I don't have to constantly be knocking on housing's door and being like, hey, will you please do things a little bit differently? So to their incredibly good credit, they are doing really fabulous work in this area. So our gender inclusive housing is called GILE, G-I-L-E, Gender Inclusive Living Experience, right? So folks are searching for that, GILE. Right. And that includes both a living learning experience where there's an area that is specific for agility suites and folks living together. And there's programming and a diversity peer educator that supports their work and special training. It's good stuff. Right. But there's also, because we are such a huge campus, right, we have over 50,000 students. Right. and we have tons of schools and colleges across the university. Some people don't want to live in the Gilly area because they want to live closer to their college or where they actually go to classes. So we have gender inclusive areas that are not necessarily a living learning community, but are like gender inclusive suites or gender inclusive floors, like in other places across campus too. So there's kind of like two ways. Like if you want the intensive, like, experience of being surrounded by other folks that want to be in Gilly, fantastic community building, right? If you want to be closer to your classes, you have that option as well. So, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and they do a really good job making sure that folks have access not just to housing, but like the appropriate restrooms, right? Because bodies were not meant to go into boxes, and so anytime there's boxes attached to bodies, we have a problem. So here we are, so they do a really good job making sure folks have exactly what they need, and I'm really grateful for them. And I haven't always been able to say that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I am also learning through this work that things like gender inclusive housing and gender inclusive restrooms are not something to be taken for granted. Apparently, it's very it's very hard to do because institutions have their ways of doing things, and it's very much the default of like, you room someone with someone of the same gender, and that's just how we do it. I learned about one campus where their gender inclusive housing is basically like male floors and female floors, but they've added the like tag of like female and non-binary and like male and non-binary floors, and it's like they still have to choose one. Like this is not gender inclusive. So anyway, apparently very difficult to do.
I mean, it's also like difficult, but it's also not, right?
Right.
Because like
Right.
it's been happening on campuses for a very long time now. When I first started doing this work like 20 years ago, that's a long time. We're still having the same conversations about like restrooms and how we do demographic information and what name goes on a diploma versus a transcript, right? What's on an ID card? These are not new conversations. They've been around for a very long time. And the campuses that have been willing to put the people power and the funding behind it actually have those things. And, I'm proud to say part of why I work here is because University of Michigan is one of those campuses where we have done a lot of work to make sure that we are, not just meeting where we should be compared to our peers, but we're actually trying to lead. Right? We're actually trying to like make sure we, as the first LGBTQ center in the country, are setting an example, right, for what other centers can be doing, which is, really important work because we're not just trying to hit a bar, we're trying to raise it. So
Good soundbite.
I mean, sometimes I speak in sound bites.
Yeah, it was nice. Okay. Okay, I will now give you an opportunity to elaborate on more of the reasons why you are proud to work at UMich. So I will ask you to please shine a spotlight of some of the programming and resources that are available to LGBTQIA+ students, either from your office or other offices on campus. What are, some of the greatest hits?
Yeah, the greatest hits. So our programming in our area is divided into 3 areas. We have education and training, events and partnerships, and support services and wellness. So education and training, we provide trainings and workshops to campus partners, to students, all in an effort to create a more just and equitable campus, right? Most of the people who go through our workshops are actually faculty and staff, right? Our most popular workshop is Pronouns 101, which feels unsurprising, right? We also have a web course that's like an LGBTQ 101 vocabulary course that's open to anybody, and it's hosted on the same website where our classes are hosted. So what we call Canvas, right? And that's just trying to do some culture change work, meeting people where they are, creating more inclusive spaces, right? So that's that area. Events and partnerships. So that's the big events. So our campus is also the place where Lavender graduation started many years ago, right? And so I believe we started with 3 graduates. And for folks who don't know, Lavender graduation is our ceremony to support the accomplishments and the contributions of our queer and trans community members when they graduate. Right. So we started with 3 graduates back in the 70s, right? For what, 70s? It wasn't 70s, it was 90s, excuse me. It feels like the 70s. It was so long ago, right? We had 191 this year, which is super great. 191 Lavender graduates, which we love, you know? And so that event, we do Pride Prom, which is fabulous. We do a ton of programming related to Days of Observance, National Coming Out Week, Trans Awareness Month, Pride, all the things, right? Our welcome event for new students is called Pride Outside. It happens the first weekend after you arrive. And it's a huge Pride festival just for students with drag performances and snow cones and lots of vendors and lots of fun on campus, because we want to welcome folks and make sure they know that there's a community here to greet them. And then the last area is support services and wellness, because we know that sometimes our students need some support when they arrive. So those are affinity-based groups, like discussion groups, right? As well as our first-year programming, which is like to get like academic transition to make you like help you get used to campus and how to navigate college and those kinds of things. But then there's also the side of like gender-affirming resources, information on safe tucking and safe binding, right? And we do programs like that at least once a semester. And then we also have the gender affirming clothing closet, which is an opportunity for folks to find clothes that they might want to wear that may be more aligned with who they are or their gender, or they just want to try stuff on because, you know, why not? Right. And so that all lives in our support services and wellness area. And then beyond programs, a lot of the work I do is advocacy, policy change, working with departments to, you know, increase how equitable, inclusive they are. And then, of course, supporting students when they need help. We do have several scholarships out of Spectrum Center that are for folks who are doing work within LGBTQIA 2S+ communities, right? We also have a program called our project grants, and that's for students who want to do something and just need a little extra funding, and they can apply for funding. And then the last thing, if there's any artists, every so often we put out a call for art, and we pay up to $250 for pieces done by students to go in our center that are celebrating their identities. So yeah, we do a lot.
Yeah, that was
I'd like a nap now, if that's okay.
Wow, what was that?
I'd like a nap now, if that's okay.
Yeah. No, that was wow. Oh my gosh, phenomenal. I mean, truly comprehensive.
We have a really good team too. Our staff is really fun and silly and, you know, really smart, and they really care about students. And more than anything, we think it's our job to just love our students exactly as they are, right? And be examples of like what it means to love our community, right? And to love ourselves, because, you know, that actually is what makes the difference, you know? We bring speakers, sure, but what's the point of it? We build community, right? That's what we do. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I really am interested in hearing more about the grant program. Would you be able to tell us about just like one you know, memorable project through the grant program?
Yeah. So a lot of times the projects are things like, and it's not a huge amount of money, right? It's up to $500. So which is something, right? And I mean, $500 is a lot of money to me, but it doesn't necessarily get you like Laverne Cox coming as a keynote speaker, right? Like, but it may be able to something community based. And we want the focus to be on something related to queer and trans identity. A lot of our grantees are actually from our performance-based schools, right? Like from our School of Music, Theater, and Dance. And so they want to do a play that's about queer and trans identity, but they need to rent the stage, right? And so they will ask us to pay for like the stage so that they can put on their own production of whatever it is, right? And we're very happy to help with that. Other folks have reached out to us to ask for like assistance with their final presentation, which is, you know, a one-person show or a monologue of some sort for, you know, a performance class that they have to do in order to get their degree, right? And that's what it's about. So oftentimes really fun stuff. There was a fashion show recently, like all the things. So yeah. I mean, part of it's just like we don't have to control all the queer stuff that happens on campus. Some of what we want to do is make sure our students have the resources to be leaders, right? Because like they know what they want. Sometimes they just need someone to pay the bill. And so we can provide support, and we do mentor the students as they're going through their project if they need anything. But a lot of what we do is, just give access to resources. So,
Great. That's
yeah.
wonderful. That
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay. I have
Yeah.
another question.
Yes.
So your campus is really, really large.
Yeah.
And on most campuses, especially large campuses like yours, students will arrive with a variety of different levels of knowledge and different attitudes towards the LGBTQIA plus community. Could you speak to how this plays out at UMich and how it impacts LGBTQIA plus undergraduates?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so, we are a public university, right? And we are in a city. And so we are spread out. So, like, you're on campus and all of a sudden you're in front of a pizza place, right? Like, so there is some of like, we are not necessarily a big city like New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, but it is still a city. And so a part of navigating campus is also navigating the Ann Arbor community, right? Which may or may not be more or less progressive than campus. Like, who knows, right? But there is also, there are always going to be people who are maybe perhaps unkind, right? For a variety of reasons. And because we're a public institution, they get to hang out on our campus sometimes, right? And that can be a bit of a challenge. I went to a large public institution as well. Like, it is, people being people in all over the place, right? Ann Arbor is a really progressive city, right? In a relatively progressive state, right? And so I think that it's a very queer friendly area. IPSI, which is right by Ann Arbor, is another very queer and trans friendly area. There's a lot of community work that's going on right now. We have the Gym Toy Center, which is separate from our center, which is a community center doing LGBTQ work. We also have Neutral Zone, which is another community-based center doing queer and trans work for folks under 18, right? So there's a lot of amazing nonprofits and activist organizations doing work in our city. So I would say, it's kind of amazing to be in a place where, you can pretty much go wherever you want and be who you are, right? So I'll take it,
That's phenomenal.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good. Okay, you have already spoken about this, but I'm going to give
Yeah.
you an opportunity to elaborate.
Sure.
What is the best thing about being an LGBTQIA plus undergraduate at UMich?
Um, Hanging out with me. No, that's not it. No, it's really not.
Good
Um,
answer.
I, I haven't been an undergrad here, so I don't really know. But my assumption would be like, we are a really amazing institution. We are considered the best of the best in a lot of different areas. We have some of the best faculty in the world. Our center is one of the most incredible centers in the country, right? So there's a lot of really amazing stuff here. And the thing that I love the most as not an undergrad, but someone who does teach undergrads, right? Is the community, right? There's a genuine sense of community care. And I have been constantly impressed by the ways that folks have shown up for one another, right? And so, like, even someone has a hard time at Pride Prom, they're surrounded by a group of folks that are interested in like doing caretaking, right? And that's the thing that I love the most about our students is like the commitment to one another. So
That's beautiful.
yeah. Our office really does have a focus on like community building and centering joy. Like, so that's a lot. I think you'd probably hear similar answers from all of our team members that like, oh, we're here to build community and make connections and facilitate friendship and like those kinds of pieces, right?
Oh, that's so lovely.
You
That's
know.
great. Um, is there anything that we didn't get to that is important for prospective students and families to know about LGBTQIA plus life at University of Michigan?
I mean, I think this is the best place I've ever worked, and I've worked a lot of places. Um, my son is 16, about to be 17, and I'm trying to get him to come here. So we'll see if that works out. So, he's pretty great. So, yeah, I can't think of anything else. I mean, we have incredible student orgs. We have 2 multicultural spaces. We have the Trotter Multicultural Center, which is an incredible space. And then Multi-Ethnic Student Affairs, which is our sibling office that we share a wall that comes down with, and we work together to serve queer and trans students of color, right? And both offices have an express commitment to ensuring that queer and trans students of color are served and supported, which is something that's often missing on campuses, right? So I think, there's folks that are doing the hard work and the courageous work here, and which makes it an easier place for our students to show up and be their full selves.
That's beautiful. Sign me up. I'm coming.
Okay, done. Come on. Come on down.
Yeah, show your son this interview. Maybe.
Yeah, I think what sold him was when he realized that my office is not located anywhere near the college he wants to go to at U of M. He was like, "Oh, it's a 20-minute walk. That's fine. I'll apply." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "All right, fine."
Yeah.
You don't want to go where I go? Fine.
Yeah.
That's just being a parent, though. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And where can folks find you and more information about your office?
Yeah, so we are at the Spectrum Center at the University of Michigan. I should know that our website off the top of my head. I'm sure I do. So it's spectrumcenter.umich.edu. You should also find us on Instagram, which is UM Spectrum Center, but center is CTR. Spectrum CTR.
I'll put links.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. And we do have a pretty active social media page. So yeah, please connect with us. Yeah.
Great. And your website is very comprehensive. I have to say. It's really good.
We're editing it right now because I hate it. So thank you for feedback, but it'll be better soon.
So. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, excited to see that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. This was delightful and very informative.
Yay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good one. Bye.